This is the moment before it shifts. On an April morning this year, Lieutenant Mei Lin is on the bridge of a Taiwanese patrol ship in the Taiwan Strait. In Latvia, Sergeant Marta Ozola is watching drone footage of armored columns that are supposedly just an exercise. In the Strait of Hormuz, Captain Saeed al-Harbi is escorting shipping while a tanker reports a blast under the water. This is not a prediction. It is a fictional chain of events built from real-world pressure points. Thread 1. Taiwan Strait. A Chinese destroyer cuts across Mei Lin's bow, too close. Metal scrapes. The deck lurches. A sailor goes down against a railing. For 3 seconds, nobody fires. Then shots crack across the water. Short, panicked, real. Within hours, both capitals lock into their public lines. Beijing calls it an accident. Taipei calls it an attack. That night, missile units move on the Chinese coast with headlights off, rolling into covered sites. Taiwan answers quietly. Mobile launchers roll onto highways and vanish into mountain cutouts. And something else shifts fast. Navigation warnings begin to spread. Ship transponders show wrong positions. Commercial crews report GPS drift near the strait. Nobody claims it. Nobody has to. One shipping delay becomes 10. 10 become a backlog. And the moment ports start slowing down, every other front begins to feel it, because modern war runs on the same global logistics as everything else. We pause this scenario here and shift to Europe. Thread 2. Baltic Corridor. Marta Ozola stands on the Latvian border while Russian vehicles line up with spacing that looks like training, but also looks like readiness. The first hits do not look like tanks. A rail switch fails outside a logistics yard. A transformer station trips and stays down longer than it should. A fiber line is cut in a place that only matters if you know which network runs through it. Then the information layer buckles. Phones buzz with alerts that contradict each other. A fake message spreads claiming a Latvian unit has been ordered to pull back. Then another claims a NATO jet has been shot down over Poland. Both are false. Both work. The phrase returns to every briefing slide. Suwalki Gap, a narrow corridor linking Poland and Lithuania, the hinge that keeps the Baltics supplied. In this kind of pressure, you do not need to take a city. You only need to threaten the route that feeds it. And while the map shows a border problem, the markets read it as a supply problem. Rail uncertainty in Europe, shipping uncertainty in Asia, all of it stacks into one message. Risk is rising everywhere at once. We leave this scenario for a moment and move south. Thread 3. Strait of Hormuz. Saeed al-Harbi watches a tanker list in the Strait of Hormuz. Not sinking fast, not exploding. Just wounded, bleeding oil into a passage the world cannot ignore. Iran denies responsibility and announces live fire drills. Patrol boats appear. Drones buzz overhead. Saeed's crew lowers sonar gear into the water. The first order comes that changes the rhythm. Convoys. The strait does not need to close completely. It only needs to feel uncertain. Insurance premiums spike. Freight rates jump. Some captains refuse to enter without escort. A delay of hours becomes a delay of days. Then the pressure spreads through systems people rarely see. A major shipping portal goes offline for a day. Cargo manifests vanish. Ports slow because nobody can verify what is on a container, and nobody wants to clear it wrong. Money moves slower too. Banks run maintenance. Card payments fail for an evening. And when fuel prices spike, the shock does not stay in the Gulf. It hits flight hours, shipping speed, and resupply schedules in the Pacific and in Europe. The same barrel of fuel is now a limiter on 3 fronts. We freeze this timeline here and jump back to the Pacific. Taiwan Strait. By day 4, warships shadow each other at close distance. Aircraft fly patterns that tighten like a net. China still does not land troops. Instead, it builds a blockade that is loose on paper and heavy in reality. Drones circle. Missile boats drift near the edges. Submarines turn the water into a question mark. Commercial ships hesitate outside the main lanes. Insurers hesitate. Port managers hesitate. Hesitation becomes a lever. Allies begin moving, quietly, heavily. Fuel tankers reposition. Air defense units disperse. Submarines slide forward under radio silence. Then missiles launch. Thin white streaks. Interceptors rise to meet them. Some connect, some do not. A supply ship burns on the horizon, and the digital fog thickens. Harbor scheduling systems begin to lag. Satellite links stutter. A few commercial imaging feeds go dark. Commanders still have data, but less of it and slower. Every interceptor fired here is not just a tactical decision. It is an inventory decision. Stockpiles are finite. Factories cannot replace precision weapons overnight. What gets spent near Taiwan is no longer available in the same month to protect airspace over Europe or ships in the Gulf. Malin understands what that means at sea. Water is not cover. Water is exposure. We shift to Europe. Baltic Corridor. Armed men appear near a village road wearing mismatched gear. No insignia. Real rifles. They set up a checkpoint and film themselves. Marta's orders are careful. Observe, confirm, avoid escalation. She feels the trap, because avoiding escalation is exactly what the other side exploits. A single shot is fired on a rural road. Nobody can prove who fired first. Everyone can prove that it happened. Within minutes, edited clips spread online with captions in multiple languages, telling 3 different versions of the same moment. The sabotage continues. Train schedules glitch. A depot alarm. Triggers and forces an evacuation. A border camera system goes blind for an hour, then comes back with missing timestamps. Not long enough to be called an attack by everyone, but long enough to create doubt. NATO deploys more forces into Poland. Jets patrol more often, air defenses move, and every reinforcement has a cost that is now global. More patrols means more fuel burned at a moment when Hormuz is tightening the world's energy supply. More air defense means more interceptors reserved here, while the Pacific is burning through them faster than planners like to admit. We move south again. Strait of Hormuz. By week 2, Saeed escorts convoys through water that feels narrower every time. Mines are not everywhere. They do not need to be. The threat alone is enough to raise costs, and raised costs are enough to shake governments. Fuel prices jump, then food prices follow, then politics follows. Proxy attacks flare across the region. Drones harass patrol ships. Missiles threaten ports without hitting them. Even a threat can stop normal work from happening. Saeed hears a phrase in a briefing that sounds polite and deadly. Resource prioritization. That means not every convoy gets a full escort. Not every sweep is perfect. Not every air defense battery can cover every city. Then a new kind of choke tightens. A wave of fraudulent insurance claims floods shipping markets. Risk models update in panic. More ships wait outside the strait, burning fuel while they wait for clearance that never seems to arrive. And this is where the fronts fuse. Shipping slows. Fuel gets rationed. Supply chains slip. Reinforcements arrive later with less margin. The Pacific feels it. Europe feels it. The war becomes one connected stress test. We jump back to the Pacific again. By month 2, the fight becomes about distance. Taiwan is close to China and far from everyone else. Refueling aircraft become priceless. Runways become targets. Ships become floating fuel tanks that can turn into fire with one lucky strike. Malin hears about a coordinated disruption hitting ports across Asia and parts of Europe. Shipping manifests vanish. Custom systems slow. Cargo sits on docks because nobody can confirm what it is, and nobody wants to clear it under pressure. The blockade now has a second layer. Confusion. The war reaches upward without a single explosion on the ground. Navigation glitches. Satellite links degrade. Communication delays grow. Nobody needs to knock out space. Slowing it is enough. A near collision happens at night between 2 ships operating with incomplete data. It is not a battle. It is a warning that the system itself is cracking. Mei Lin understands the new shape of the threat. Steel and fire are only part of it. The rest is missing certainty. We shift to Europe once again. By month 3, the Baltic corridor is bruised, not conquered. Russian forces make a limited move under the language of protection and stability, not a sprint to capitals, a strip of territory, a road, a bridge, a security zone. NATO responds with speed meant to reassure. More troops, more patrols, more air defense. The sky fills with drones. Cheap drones scout. Better drones strike. Air defenses fire and relocate, because staying still gets you found. Marta watches a supply depot burn after a strike finds it despite dispersal plans. The message is simple. You cannot hide everything. You can only move faster than the targeting loop, and in the background, the grid keeps flickering. A hospital runs on generators for a night. A water plant slows for a day. A false evacuation message goes out and is corrected too late. The home front is a target because fear is a weapon. By now, it stops feeling like 3 separate crises. It becomes one war with 3 fronts, tied together by fuel, shipping, and the networks underneath. We move south once again. By month 4, Saeed is no longer fighting mines. He is fighting time. A missed shipment becomes a refinery problem. A refinery problem becomes a shortage. A shortage becomes a protest. The chain is boring, and that is why it is powerful. Energy pressure spreads globally. Countries argue about priority cargo. Some quietly cut deals. Others impose restrictions. Black markets bloom. Politicians promise stability while rationing begins behind the scenes. A drone strike hits an oil processing facility and knocks out production for days. Days are enough. Markets react faster than repairs. Then the networks shake again. A payment platform goes down for an afternoon. A port scheduling system locks out its own operators. Rumors surge that the strait is closed, even when it is not. Saeed watches exhausted crews rotate through the choke point again and again. Tired crews make errors. Errors create incidents. Incidents create escalations. And when escalation is everywhere at once, leaders start reacting to the whole picture, not one theater. A move in Hormuz changes what is possible near Taiwan. A decision in Europe changes what can be protected in the Gulf. That is how the war becomes global without a single declaration. After a year like this, nobody has a clean victory. The Taiwan Strait becomes a grind of distance and uncertainty. The Baltic Corridor becomes a test of alliance credibility. Hormuz becomes a global stress fracture where fuel pressure makes every other decision harder. The common thread is not just missiles or tanks. It is systems, shipping, power, banking, information. When those systems become unreliable, small moves start to feel like existential threats, and leaders start reaching for bigger responses. If anything, exploring a chain like this is a reminder of the opposite of glorification. It shows how easily things can spiral and why de-escalation, communication, and restraint matter when the margins get thin. If you liked this video, hit subscribe for more like it, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next.